Welcome to Mr. News Art Class. It's wonderful to see your smiling faces. Today we're talking about a famous artist named Pablo Picasso. This is a photograph of Pablo Picasso when he was a young man. And this is what he looked like when he was older. This is a self-portrait that Pablo Picasso painted. When we say the word portrait, we mean a picture of a face. A portrait is a picture of anybody's face. A self-portrait is when an artist paints a picture of themselves. So this is a self-portrait because Pablo Picasso painted himself. And this one isn't a self-portrait. It's just a portrait because the person in this picture is not the person who painted it. This is also a portrait made by Pablo Picasso, but it's not a picture of Pablo Picasso. Self-portrait, not a self-portrait, but still a portrait. Portrait, picture of a face. Self-portrait, picture of the artist's face. Anyway, what we need to see is that these two portraits are very, very different, even though they were made by the same guy. One of them looks very realistic, almost like a photograph, click, click, but the other one looks like he was just making up shapes as he went along. This is a style of art called Cubism. There are two main ideas when we're creating a Cubist artwork. The first idea of Cubism is that you want to simplify things and make them the easiest shape that you can possibly make. The second idea of Cubism is that you want to see things not just from one direction, you also want to see things from other directions. So how do we make that happen on our pictures? Follow along and let's see. So to make our Cubist drawings, the first thing is we're going to turn our paper vertical. That means up, down, not sideways, not horizontal. We don't want a sideways paper like this. We want it to be vertical, up, down. And you need something to draw with. I'm going to draw with a Sharpie marker because it shows up great on that camera. You could draw with crayons or markers or colored pencils, whatever you've got. Totally up to you. And then you're going to need something to fill with color when you're done. I'm actually going to use paint. You could color it with markers or crayons or colored pencils or whatever when you're done. Anyway, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to point right in the middle of your paper. Don't point at the top. Don't point at the side or the bottom or the corners. Right in the middle, we're going to write the letter L, capital L. Now, I know some of you are thinking right away, wait a minute, Mr. New, this isn't writing class, this is drawing class. Why are we making letters? Bear with me. Up on top of that letter L, we're going to make the letter C above it. And then down under the letter L, we're going to make a backwards 3. You see how that's a backwards 3? Like if I turn it upside down, you see how that looks like a 3? But I've got it backwards, and it's underneath my L. Now, we have drawn the eyes, the nose, and the mouth of a profile portrait. Wait, what? Here, check this out. Watch. What we're going to do is we're going to turn this letter C into an eyeball. We're going to do that by drawing a sideways V coming off of it this direction. So I'm going to come from the top of the letter C, and I'm going to make a line that comes back this way, and then from the bottom of the letter C, a line that comes up and meets it, and they come to a point there. Oh, look, if I turn it this way, you see how it kind of looks like an ice cream cone? Let's finish off this circle at the top, right? This is where the C was. Let's finish off that circle, right? You see how that looks like an ice cream cone? Let's put a cherry on top of that ice cream cone. Right here, touching the top, but still inside the circle, make a big dot. That is the pupil of the eye, and this is the eyeball, and this is the eyelids, and we're looking at it from the side of the face. So if we wanted eyelashes, you see how they point that direction? The eyeball is facing that way, and the nose is facing that way, and the mouth is facing that way. These are the lips. Okay, so let's draw the rest of the mouth. Let's do that next. We're going to do it the same way we did this with that sideways V. So from the top of the backwards 3 and from the bottom of the backwards 3, we're going to angle down and then we're going to angle up, and they come to a point over here, right? Oh look, it's the lips, it's the eye, the nose, and the mouth. You've just made a profile view picture with the one eye, the nose, and the mouth. And a profile means it's sideways, like this. Looking at the side instead of the front. Let's finish this off with an ear back here behind the face. So like, you know, level with the nose, but kind of over here. Let's put an ear. And, you know, it's got some kind of weird shapes in there, right, where the lines are inside your ear. And then we also want to close off with a big oval that wraps around the whole head, right? So let's start by connecting from underneath the nose to the mouth. And then from the top of the nose to the eye. And then from the top of the eye, we'll do like up for a forehead, and then around the back of the head, and then up to the bottom of the mouth. It's got a little bit of a chin, I guess. So that was step number 1. We made a profile view face. But step number 2, we need to look at the face from another angle. Because Pablo Picasso, with his Cubist style, was trying to look at things from more than one side at the same time. So if we look at the front of a face, we see 2 eyes, not just 1. And if we look at the front of the face, we see both ears, 1 on each side, instead of just 1 ear. And we see the whole mouth instead of just half the mouth. So let's draw the other eye over here. We got 1 eye, and the other eye is going to be right here beside it. We'll draw it as a leaf shape or a football shape, or some people call it a lemon shape. And then we're going to put a circle inside of it. And then we're going to put a dot, a black dot inside of that. This is the colored part of the eye, and the pupil. The pupil is the black dot. And then if you want the eyelashes, you can draw those coming out like this. Don't make them too long though, just make them little short things, especially on the bottom of the eye. And then we've already got the nose in the middle, but we need the rest of the mouth coming off this way. So the same thing I did over here with the sideways V, I'm going to do it on this side too. And then I'm also going to draw the line between the lips going across the middle like that. And then I'm going to draw the other ear over here, but first I want to finish drawing like the shape of the head. So from the top up here, let's just make it into a big circle. And then when we were looking at the side of the head, we saw a whole big ear, didn't we? But when we're looking at the front of the head, we just see a little sliver of the ear, right? It doesn't, like, we don't see like the whole big shape of the ear. We're just seeing it from a different angle. And then all that's left at this point, step number 3, is to finish it off with a neck. Notice I made 2 lines for the neck, not just 1 line. It's not just a stick. Make it wide, give it some thickness. That's a line on this side of the neck and a line on this side of the neck. And some shoulders that come off to the edges. And of course, you know, some kind of a shirt wrapping around the neck there. And then some hair. You can decide what kind of hair you want. I think that what I'm going to do is make some long hair. Why not? Sure. Something like that. And now you have made a portrait in the style of Pablo Picasso's Cubism. I'm going to go ahead and use watercolor paints to finish this off. And when we talk about color with Pablo Picasso's Cubist pictures, did he use realistic colors in his pictures? Nah. He used lots of different colors, and he kind of just, you know, made things whatever. Sometimes he used colors expressively to show feelings, but other times he just kind of used whatever colors he wanted. Now, if you've been following along this series, you've seen me do this before, where for my watercolors, I just put a little bit of water in the tray here. And remember, anytime we're using watercolor paints, we need a wet brush. So here's water, and then color. I'm gonna get some brown for the hair, and then paint. Yeah, and when your brush gets dry and it stops working, go get some water, stir up that color, and then paint. And you don't want big puddles, you want to spread them out so that you don't have drippiness when you hang it up to dry. And when your brush is dry, get some water, then some color, and then paint. Now I'm using brown for the hair, which is a color that some people's hair is in real life. But like I said just a minute ago, you do not have to use realistic colors. What would have been like if I had used blue for the hair? Can I use blue for the hair? I might even change my mind halfway through right here in the middle and say, I want the rest of the hair to be blue. But no, I'm going to keep going with the brown since that's what I started with. But it's totally up to you. You decide. You can change it around however you want. When you're done with a color and ready to start painting something different, don't forget to wash the color out of your brush. You only need to do that when you're switching between colors. You don't need to do that every time. So most of the time I just dip into the water. But when I'm switching colors, I'll actually tap, tap, tap to wash my brush. Maybe I want to paint the eyes a nice blue. So I'll come get some blue and paint those eyes blue. Totally up to you. You can paint those eyes whatever color you want. Some people have blue eyes. Some people have brown eyes. Some people's eyes are green. Some people's eyes are kind of grayish. You can decide what color to make the eyes. I mean, if you wanted them to be purple, you could totally do that. That'd be fine. I am gonna go with more realistic colors though. I think next I'm gonna switch to a sort of reddish color for the lips. That is my Cubist portrait of a girl. I could paint the background too if I wanted, but I think for mine, I'm just going to leave it as is. If you have any water left here, you want to wipe it up. In my case, I only have a tiny little bit. I ended up pouring myself the perfect amount of water there. And then put the brush away, and you're done. In today's lesson, we learned about Pablo Picasso and his Cubist style of painting. We looked at a face from both a frontal view and a profile view, and we broke both of them down into simple shapes and pushed them together into one picture. In our next lesson, we're going to talk about Vincent van Gogh and his expressionist style of painting. I can't wait to see you then.